program and decided to put me on after that young man, that is fundamentally unfair. Fundamentally unfair. Thank you, Jocelyn, for that wonderful introduction. I was saying at the table, it almost sounds like I can't hold a job. For all those things I've had the great privilege to do in this wonderful city of ours. I'd like to recognize our new City Council President, a man I had the pleasure of swearing in just, I guess, a week or 2 weeks or so ago. And he's a guy I've known for a good number of years. He has always been a leader. I think he's going to be a great City Council President. And leading the city to greater heights. There are also people here. I go on and try to pick out people. We'll see if I'll miss a few, but my good buddy Ken Amos is another person who has done a great deal for the city, especially the young people. And I see people who I've served with in the U.S. Attorney's Office, people who have been a part of my life in a variety of contexts. So it's always good to come to Shiloh. This is I feel like I'm from home when I come here. So thank you for having me. Reverend Smith, he never changed, you know. I was here as U.S. Attorney, that was back in 1993, I guess. He looks exactly the same. I hope it's related, you know. But I am really grateful for this opportunity to speak with you, to pray with you, and to join with you on this very, very special occasion. And thank you again for making me feel a part of the Shiloh family. Today in communities across America, and especially in houses of worship like this one, the spirit of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. lives on. His memory continues to touch us. His legacy continues to guide us. And his words still have the power to teach and to comfort us. Dr. King's legacy binds us. And this morning as we come together to honor his life, we are also bound, as was mentioned earlier, by a common grief. 1 week ago, a senseless rampage in Tucson, Arizona reminded each of us that more than 40 years after Dr. King's death, his own death, his own tragic death, our long struggle to end suffering, to eradicate violence, and to promote peace, that struggle really still goes on. In times like these, that is times of heartbreak and inexplicable loss, the power of Dr. King's example and the importance of his contributions are really brought into focus. So as we continue to mourn those we have lost, and as we pray for those who are still injured, let us also recommit ourselves to carrying on and carrying forward Dr. King's work. Now, for a quarter of a century now, Americans have come together on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day to do just that. Each year, we are provided an opportunity to rededicate ourselves to Dr. King's vision of racial and social equality, to his efforts to expand economic opportunity, and to the values that were at the heart of those great sermons that we all know. The root of his actions, the core of his character, and the center of his life, all these things we celebrate on this day. His quest for tolerance, his quest for nonviolence, his quest for compassion, his quest for love, and above all, his quest for justice. Now, today's world is very different from the one that helped shape and define Dr. King's life. Because of Dr. King, because of those who shared his dream and who joined him in his work, this world, this 21st century America is a better place. But we have not yet reached where we want to and where we need to be. That is the reality. We are far from that place. But in the years since Dr. King led a march that helped to transform his era and to expand today's possibilities, great progress indeed has been made. Now, I wish that Dr. King could be with us here to see the America that he helped to create. I wish that Dr. King could see the goodwill and the great work that he still inspires. I wish that Dr. King could see this place of worship, and that this place of worship continues to be a place of learning, of healing, and of hope, and that the nation that he fought to improve soon will honor his memory by consecrating a memorial on our National Mall within sight of monuments to our first president and its great emancipator. Dr. King left this world too soon. But each day we are reminded of the many gifts that he left behind. Words of wisdom to heed, an example to follow, footprints to guide our own steps, and a mantle of responsibility that now falls on our shoulders. Dr. King spoke often of the fierce urgency of now. When he saw injustice in the world, he felt a need to act, and to do so immediately, purposefully, and collaboratively. When he looked upon his nation, he saw really not only great challenges, but also extraordinary opportunities. He saw infinite possibilities. And he saw clearly that for every individual to be free, our entire society had to be transformed. Now, despite the odds against him, he was undeterred. Despite the obstacles before him, he kept his faith. And despite those who tried to stand in his way, he proved that here in America, large-scale, sweeping, righteous change is not impossible. It is not too audacious. It is not too ambitious. And it is not the province of God alone. We will celebrate the 50th anniversary of the swearing in of John Kennedy in January. And he ended his inaugural speech by saying something I think Dr. King would agree with, and something I think we should remember, that on this earth, God's work must truly be our own. Each of us has the power to improve the world around us, and each of us, I believe, has the responsibility to do so. Now, this is not easy work, and we know that it may be inspired by frustration, just as often as by faith. But one of the important lessons that Dr. King left to us is that it is fine, it's fine to be frustrated. It is fine to be impatient. And when progress does not come quickly, or when progress does not come fully, it is fine to be dissatisfied. In fact, being dissatisfied is important if it compels us to take action. If it compels us to take action. Dr. King's strength was rooted in dissatisfaction. It was his hunger for justice, his thirst for peace, and his empathy for others that helped motivate his lifelong struggle to ensure equal rights, equal justice, and equal opportunity. Dr. King was dissatisfied when anyone, anywhere, faced discrimination and oppression. He was dissatisfied when people of color were denied access to lunch counters, to educational opportunities, and to good jobs. He was dissatisfied when citizens who loved this country and who honorably served this nation, people like my father, who served this nation in uniform, were not allowed to vote or were forcibly discouraged from taking part in elections. Think about that. Served this nation in uniform and were denied the basic rights of every American citizen. I know this. My father lived it. And Dr. King was dissatisfied when, in the pursuit of his dream of a just and inclusive America, he was told to wait, to cool off, or to back down. Well, what if he listened? What if he had given in to doubt? If he had given in to cynicism? What if he'd given up? Just think about where we would be. Well, for myself, I can't imagine that I would be standing before you today on what would be Dr. King's 82nd birthday as our nation's 82nd Attorney General. When I consider the opportunities that I have had, I feel blessed beyond measure. And I feel proud of our nation. And I feel grateful for the family members, the friends, and colleagues whose support I have relied on and whom I continue to cherish. But like Dr. King, I'm also dissatisfied. I'm dissatisfied that here in our nation's capital, there are neighborhoods where young people are more likely to go to prison than to go to college, and where kids who have not yet reached their teenage years already have sworn allegiance to a life of violence and a life of crime. I am dissatisfied that in Washington today, more than 2,500 young people are active gang members, and that the majority of the city's African-American households do not include a father. I am dissatisfied that more than 1.5 million American children have a parent behind bars, and that the majority of America's kids, more than 60% of them, have been exposed to crime, abuse, or violence. I am dissatisfied that even though crime rates have been on a steady decline for decades, gun-related deaths have increased each year since 2002. And I am dissatisfied that over the last 12 months, the number of police officers killed by gun violence has surged by more than 40%. So yes, like Dr. King, and like many of you, I am dissatisfied, but I'm also hopeful. Occasions like this and rooms filled with dedicated, determined partners make me optimistic about the road ahead. The year before he died, when his long labors had begun to bear fruit, and when the changes that he had worked toward were finally taking hold, Dr. King famously asked, where do we go from here? Well, today, Dr. King's question, I think, is ours to consider. Where do we go from here? Now, it may not be answered quickly, and it may not be answered easily, but it can, and it must be answered by coming together, by sharing our concerns and our dreams, and by being clear about what is working and about where we need to improve. Yes, there are problems to be solved, but there are encouraging signs all around us. I am proud in particular of the work that's being done in today's Justice Department, this Justice Department, to safeguard our nation's security, to improve public safety, to protect civil rights, and to ensure access to justice and to opportunity, regardless of your socioeconomic status. But I know that tomorrow's success and our ability to meet our goals and responsibilities will depend on partners like you. Now, throughout the 19th century, the 20th century, and now into the 21st, Shiloh's leaders and congregants have found ways to reach out to those in need and to lift up those in pain. You have never turned a blind eye to suffering. You have never shied away from challenges, and you have always worked toward solutions. You have brought law enforcement officers and community residents together. You have helped to sow peace in some of this city's most dangerous and divided neighborhoods. You have advocated, not just for law and order in the district's communities, but for greater opportunities and more support for local young people. And you have ensured that Shiloh Baptist Church continues to be a strong voice and an effective ally in advancing the cause of justice. This kind of work must continue. So I thank you for your commitment to this work and for your contributions in determining where we will go from here, the answer to Dr. King's question, and how at long last we will realize Dr. King's vision. So may God continue to bless your efforts. May God continue to bless our efforts. May God continue to bless this city, and may God continue to bless the United States of America.